This was a simultaneous equations question from 2016, question 2, part B. The students would have been delighted when they saw it first because they'd recognized it, one linear, one non-linear. However, very quickly they would have realized there was going to be fractions involved in this, and they wouldn't have been quite as enthusiastic, and rightly so. You can isolate x or isolate y. I'm going to isolate x just so that I'm dividing by a 2 rather than a 3. Tiny difference, but you know, you might as well go for the smaller number. So we end up with x equal to minus 3y minus 1 over 2. Now I'm going to be subbing that in for x here and here. I'm going to have an x squared, so I just have to work this out here. Like, you know, to get your x squared, you're going to be squaring the left hand side and squaring the right hand side. But the key thing is, of course, you're going to be squaring the top and the bottom of the fraction. So you're going to end up with a 4 underneath the line. So when I replace my x squared terms, I'm going to have minus 3y minus 1 to be squared over 4. When I replace my x term, I'm going to have minus 3y minus 1 times y over 2. I'm going to have my 2y squared and my 4. Now I'm going to multiply everything by the lowest common denominator, which is 4. So I'm going to be multiplying all of the left hand side by 4 and all of the right hand side by 4. So I'm going to be multiplying in to my bracket. Okay, so what's going to happen here? My first term, when I multiply the 4 by the minus 3y minus 1 to be squared over 4, the 4's are going to cancel. When I multiply the 4 into the second part, 2 into 4 goes twice, so this is where this 2 comes from, and obviously then 4 times 2y squared gives me 8y squared, 4 times 4 gives me the 16. Multiply it out, so I'm squaring my bracket. My shortcut method, I square the first term. To get 9y squared, I square the last term to get 1, and I multiply the first term times the last term to get 6y. I tidy everything up, I get a quadratic. Now I can use my minus b formula here, no problem. Minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. We're all familiar with that. But hopefully here everyone realizes we're going to get y and not x. I've seen it happen a number of times that students do the minus b formula, get an answer, but call it x because we're so used to that. But of course our variable at this point is y. I can factorize, I can solve for y. Y is minus 15 over 11, y is equal to 1. I get the same values obviously using the minus b formula. Now I must go back and find my values for x. So I'm going to go up here to find my values for x. Because I've already x isolated there, if I just concentrate on the easier one first, y is equal to 1. So I put in my 1 minus 3 times 1 minus 2 over 2. That's going to give me minus 4 over 2, which will give me minus 2, won't it? It will. So minus 2 will be my answer there for x when y is equal to 1. And the more difficult one, when y is equal to minus 15 over 11, I'm putting that in where I have y, multiplying everything out, tidying it up, using the calculator to double check your work. You're going to get x equals 17 over 11. Now, you want to make sure here that the examiner can clearly see what your answer is. So in this case, you're making it nice and clear, maybe putting a box around it or something. They say not to highlight now, and the reason is that it mightn't show up on the scan. Potentially, in theory, it could block, you know, what you've written. I'm not sure that actually happens, but maybe just a box around it rather than highlighting your answer. But your answer is minus 2, 1. That's 1 point, and 17 over 11, comma, minus 15 over 11. Okay, so that was it. You might be surprised, but students very rarely actually get it right.